Guy Benson, here's Harry Hurley.
Welcome back to the Guy Benson Show with Christine, Dylan, and Justin. It is Harry filling in today for the great Guy Benson. On the Guy Benson Show Newsmaker Hotline is Jessica Milan Patterson, chairwoman of the California Republican Party. Don't you love this? I mean, she's great. And this is great that we're talking about California, and we're talking about states like New Jersey, and we're talking about President Trump leading in New Hampshire and other Wisconsin and other states that had been dependably Democrat. I believe at some point, California, I mean, I think about Republican governors that would happen with great regularity until the not too distant past. Jessica, welcome to the Guy Benson Show.
Hey, Harry, great to be with you.
Great to be with you. Now, Karine Jean-Pierre, as we speak, she is actually having to be the press secretary for the first time in 3.5 years. This is a press conference that somebody like Kayleigh McEnany or Sarah Huckabee Sanders or Ari Fleischer or Dana Perino would have to put up with, one media person after the other really giving it to her about the condition of the President of the United States. The Democrats have turned on their own, Jessica. It's happening in real time.
And it's so interesting to watch. Can you imagine what a joke it would be if we had waited as a Republican 5 days to have a conversation and have your press secretary talking about that disastrous debate last week? It's sad that we have had to wait until Tuesday to get her to be on the record on these things, to answer these questions. And what's going to be interesting is how she answers the questions about people looking for a substitute or a plan B for President Biden, because many Democrats, they're not doing it quietly in their group chats, are openly discussing the possibility of President Biden not being their nominee.
Well, it's true, Jessica. For example, Congressman Lloyd Doggett, Democrat, has publicly called for President Biden to drop out of the race. You have Tim Ryan, good Democrat from Ohio. Glad he never became president. Would have been a good guy, would have been a bad president. He has said the Democrat nominee for 2024 should be Kamala Harris. In the past hour, you have Congressman Clyburn, who saved Joe Biden, as you know, in South Carolina back in 2019-ish. He's modifying what he said. He said if they make a change, he supports Kamala Harris to be the presidential nominee. Even Nancy Pelosi has modified some of what she was saying in the last couple of days. So it seems to me the Democrats have decided they don't want Joe Biden to be the nominee.
They have, and a lot of them are out there publicly, and that's why a lot of eyes are over on California. Not only is Vice President Harris from the state of California, she was a terrible leader here as Attorney General, but we also have Governor Gavin Newsom, who has been running a shadow presidential campaign for over the last year. I have said since June of last year, this guy is running for president and not for 2028, for 2024.
I could not agree more.
He's been out there on his red state tour. He visited China and the Vatican, doing these international trips, trying to look presidential, if you will. He spends very little time governing the state of California, but I got to tell you, Democrats are worried about their bench as well. Yeah. If you look at Gavin Newsom and some of these other individuals that they are discussing right now, it is a disaster. Not only did we just see the CNN poll that showed President Trump beating all of these conversation starters that we've seen, but if you look at their record, if we got past all of the he's not fit to run for president because he cannot put a sentence together, and you talk about the actual policies, the policies that Gavin Newsom has championed here in California is what President Biden and Vice President Harris have tried to take across the country and have ruined many Americans' lives right now. The reason they are hurting is because of policies that started in California, championed by Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris.
I think it would be hard, Jessica, to have a Reagan-esque versus Carter type result just because of how divided the country is. And there are still a number of very reliable blue states, if you will. So I don't think it's going to be anything like that. But when you look at the 7 key battleground states, President Trump leads in every single one. President Biden won all 7 back in 2020. Something is dramatically changing. In my home state of New Jersey, which we're sort of mini California, you do it first, and then we seem to do it a little bit later, and just awful types of decisions that are made by people like Gavin Newsom. I couldn't agree with you more. He's shameful and shameless. When he goes, I will never abandon Joe Biden. Remember when Joe Biden was out of the country? I forget where he was. And Gavin Newsom was frolicking around the White House with his jacket off, taking the trip like it was as though it was for a TV commercial. He was posing.
Absolutely. And when you look at all of those top issues that voters are deciding right now, whether it's the economy, whether it's crime, whether it's our border crisis, the homeless crisis, California is doing the worst job at it. And It has all been led by Gavin Newsom. But we are seeing a trend here in California. We've had voter registration that has been really turning in the right direction. Since October of last year, Republicans have picked up 160,000 new registrations here in California. In that same time period, Democrats have lost 106,000. And decline to states or no party preference have gone down 115,000 in that same time frame. We picked up in every single congressional district. So when we look at what the balance of the House, we picked up 5 seats in the last 2 cycles.
Yep.
We are the reason that Republicans hold the House majority. Holding that House majority, growing that House majority, it comes right through California. So places that we don't necessarily look at as reliable for the presidential race, they're helpful in other ways, like New York and California.
By the way, breaking news, Judge Juan Merchan has, in fact, delayed President Trump's sentencing until September 18th. And that's going to be something we're going to talk about right after Jessica. So don't miss that as well. We're going to talk about Alvin Bragg and the fact that he did not contest. He agreed, actually, to delay. It really left Judge Merchan. He would have looked extremely partisan and would have been just out of bounds to not delay it when you would have the prosecutor saying that they do not object to it. So it's even later than I thought they were going to move it to. Some people thought it would be moved 2 weeks. This is moved to September 18th. That now will not interfere with President Trump, with the Republican National Convention. A lot to unpack coming up after Jessica. We are visiting with Jessica Milan Patterson, chairwoman of the California Republican Party. And you are the person I have been waiting to ask this question. Gavin Newsom seems to be the it name if Joe Biden isn't running. And this, as you know, Gavin Newsom's been running for a long time now, and I agree with you, not for 2028 at all. He keeps saying, I will never leave Joe Biden, and yet he took ads out in red states, visited them, as you were saying, Jessica. So what is it about a failed governor? He was a lousy mayor of San Francisco, lousy lieutenant governor, even lousier governor. His resume is terrible. How can this guy be the best that the Democrats have to offer?
Isn't it a sad state of affairs?
Yes.
I look at our bench on the Republican side, and I couldn't be more proud of the opportunities, the options that we have when we're now looking at our vice presidential candidates. This guy has failed up in every single possible way he possibly can. And I think that the ones that we should hold most accountable is the media. The mainstream media has put him up on this pedestal. When you saw the picture after the debate where they just swarm around him, they are sycophants when it comes to Gavin Newsom. He's got a great smile and great hair, but if you dig any deeper below the surface, it is just so incredibly disappointing. And I can tell you, as a Californian that has lived here my entire life, it is so sad to see what he has done to our state, and we don't want that to happen to the rest of the country.
See, that's my story, Jessica. Why in the world would anybody want this guy to do to America what he's done to California? I understand your leading industry right now is moving companies.
It is. And in fact, he is their employee of the month, whether it's U-Haul or Pods or the realtors in other states. They are thanking Gavin Newsom for his policies. But we really do lead all of the wrong lists. We are number one when it comes to homeless. 50% of the homeless population is here in California. We are the worst for business. We are number one state for unemployment. It is just so incredibly sad when you look at gas prices, gas taxes. We are number one. That is not what you want to be shouting about when you talk about these things that are real life, everyday issues for Californians.
All right, Jessica, I feel like we know each other well enough now that I can ask you this terrible question. There's something inside me that says there are certain candidates, maybe Obama was one. I don't want to compare Gavin Newsom to Obama, but the media really built Obama up. They wanted to create his inevitability. He had a very short term as a Illinois state senator, an even shorter term as a United States senator, and shazam, the guy is the president of the United States for 2 terms. There are certain people that, for some reason, people will vote against their own self-interests. Is Gavin Newsom, does he possess that it quality that America would consider voting for him, even though they may strenuously disagree with his philosophy of governance? See what I mean? It's a terrible question. I had to know you better before I would dare ask it.
That's okay. Listen, there are some people that find this man incredibly charming. There is a reason why he was able to beat a recall. He was able to get reelected.
Yeah.
He is a hard campaigner. And as you said, the media will put him up on this pedestal.
Sure.
This is something that we absolutely have to play. Thankfully for us, we have a fantastic candidate in President Trump. And we've seen what his policies have done for our country and the difference that this last 4 years under a Biden administration is. But we have to take it very seriously, because there are some people who will see that sparkle in his eye, that gleam in his smile, and just think that he is the second coming. He really isn't. He has driven this state into the ground, and it's going to be our job in these different audiences to make sure that the rest of the country knows what he has done to California and what a disaster he would be as our president.
We are visiting with Jessica Milan Patterson, chairwoman of the California Republican Party. And I will tell you, you come as advertised. You are awesome to listen to. And there's such important content that can come out of California that all of us throughout the country need to hear. Because I agree with everything you just said. Even though his policies are terrible, and he can go to the, what was it, the French Laundry? He, when everybody else is locked up, he's eating well. I mean, he can do it all and do anything, and it seems like it doesn't matter. And I have to say, it's almost a macabre sort of compliment. I almost am impressed by someone that's so wrong about everything, but yet is somehow successful electorally. It blows my mind, Jessica.
It should. It really should. It blows our mind here in California. I do think that obviously California is worth saving. That's why I stay here and fight. And I do think that California is on that path back to fixing the problems that Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, and California Democrats have created. But the last thing that we want to see is those same problems being taken to the national level.
What do we need to know about Gavin Newsom that we don't know, but you know because you are in the state of California?
Yeah, well, you can see all of the hypocrisy. You talked a little bit about the French Laundry. I mean, that was something that was, it shouldn't have surprised many of us. While he's telling us, only have 3 different families at your Thanksgiving dinner and eat outside. He's, dining at the French Laundry indoors with, 20 different people. And the hypocrisy is something that has just been palpitating here in California. But on the policy side, everything from the highest gas taxes in the nation, our gas prices just went up on July 1st. Just like Mets fans can, guarantee Bobby Bonilla is going to get that $1 million, Californians can guarantee that their gas tax will be raised on July 1st every single year because of Gavin Newsom. And that just creates a cost increase for everything. We are the breadbasket of the entire world here with our Central Valley. And the cost of delivering food everywhere you go.
Yeah.
Everything costs more here in California, whether it's the housing crisis because of the crazy environmental regulations that CEQA puts on building homes here in California. He had a lofty plan to build millions of houses. And not only does he move the goalposts every time he misses the goals, but I mean, he hasn't even gotten to a fraction of what he promised he would build here in California.
Jessica,
so all of these different things are things that the world should know.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you've had the opportunity to tell them on the Guy Benson Show. I could talk to you all day. I didn't think I could be more impressed, and then you knew about the Bobby Bonilla contract, which I have called the greatest sports contract ever negotiated. Incredible what Bobby Bonilla pulled off there. Amazing, actually. People should look it up if you don't know how he continues to get paid the $1 million a year all these years later. It is fantastical. Jessica Milan Patterson, you are very impressive. Honor to speak with you.
Thanks for having me, Harry.
You're welcome. I'm getting comments on my iPhone throughout the interview. People have loved listening to Jessica. We'll be back. Don't go away. Much more important content on a huge news day. My goodness. Huge news day. It is. The Guy Benson Show.